Oh, you're very welcome back. It's a little bit chilly out here. But we're out here for good reason. I've even taken Tony, our cameraman's jacket. Anyway, we're out here with Conor Fulknan from the AA, and we're talking about getting your car winter ready. And Conor, you're going to give us a few tips on basics. Well, they're not basics for everybody.
It's kind of a checklist, isn't it?
There is a checklist, yeah.
And listen, the first thing to do is to say, get the car serviced. And that's, people just don't bother in this country. They treat the service the way they treat the dentist. You know, you go to the dentist when you have a toothache, get the car serviced when there's something wrong. But the manufacturer says get it serviced roughly once a year, so do that. And they will do all these basic checks that we're now talking about. They'll make sure the car is fine. But in the meantime, if you haven't done that, we have a fairly ordinary car here now, sort of mainstream car. This thing needs a service, which you will get shortly. But in the meantime, there's a few sort of basic checks that anybody can do. You don't need to be a technical
genius. And you
genius.
want to start with the tyres, Conor, is it?
First thing to do is just have a look at the tyres themselves.
And the general condition of it then on the tyre depth, is it?
General condition. Now, you see that there's a decent amount of tread in the tyres. These tyres are not too bad. Legal minimum of 1.6 millimetres, which is actually very, very little. These tyres are reasonably good, so just have a check there. And you're also checking for any blisters on the sidewall, anything stuck in the tyres. They can pick up nails and stuff. So just visually check the tyres, make sure.
People also have a habit that when they're checking the tyres, they go, yeah, they're grand, but they never go into the far side.
Yes, exactly.
As well.
So you want to check the walls of the tyres. There could be blistering on the walls of the tyres. And then check it, allow the tyre to move. So roll the car and check. Look for any nails or screws or something embedded in the tyre, which can easily happen.
When it comes to tyre pressures, and people kind of freak out about that, particularly go, there's a bit of ice now, I need to adjust, or how do I make sure, how do we know we've got, or what our car needs in terms of tyre pressure?
Okie dokie. Well, firstly, you don't adjust for temperature or anything like that. Same tyre pressure all the time. What tyre pressure? Varies slightly by car, but there's always a sticker here. There's a sticker on the driver's door. Can we see that?
And that's on pretty much every car.
Every car, pretty standard, And that'll tell you in the unit of measure is bar or pounds per square inch. And you can see on this one here, this one's 2.3 bar. On the front tyre, and I think it says, you can see a 2 bar on the rear. So the sticker will do it there, and then you go into your garage, you attach your little pump to the nozzle there. It's on every car. You press the button on the pump, and you'll see on the display what the pressure is. So apply the pressure, and it'll bring it up, and it'll tell you when you got to the right level. It only takes 2 minutes to do. When you feel it,
something that everyone can do themselves.
Now, I've spoken to AA members who say, "Oh God, I can't use that. That's terribly complicated." It really isn't. If you do it once, anybody can do it. Simple check. I'd say at least once a month, check the levels of the tyres. And obviously, if one tyre is going down continually, you might have a slow puncture there.
So then we move into an area which is completely unfamiliar to me.
Voodoo.
Under the bonnet.
Under the bonnet.
This kind of witchery pokery under
exactly.
here. Now, what do we need to check then when it comes to the winter?
Okay, well again, for most modern cars, you really need to check very little. It'll happen when your car is being serviced. In years gone by, people were checking water levels and batteries and fluids and all that sort of stuff. These days, they tend to be sealed for life and only the mechanic touches them. But a few basic things. One is, if you pop up the bonnet, and your owner's manual will tell you what all these things are, but windscreen washer fluid, that squirts onto the windscreen. Very, very easy. You buy one of these in any garage, anywhere. It's windscreen washer fluid. So just keep that topped up, and that's the spray to keep your windscreen clear. Very easy to do.
And very dangerous if you're to run out.
Well, absolutely. You need it, but you need it badly. I mean, the windscreen wipers just basically won't work for you properly. This is your oil level. Again, for more modern cars, you probably don't need to touch this. The mechanic will do it with his services. But for a slightly older car, this, Simon, is a dipstick.
That's what a dipstick is.
That's what a dipstick is.
People have been using that word for years. Now I know what it is.
Technical definition. Now, it's a bit of a messy thing, but if you clean that with a tissue, there's a little indicator mark there that will tell you how much oil is in. So you dip it, you clean it, dip it in, lift it up, and there'll be an indicator mark there, and you'll see how high up the oil has come.
So you'll know straight away.
So you know straight away. And then, so if you need to top it up, standard engine oil, and you can pour it in there with a funnel or something like that. But as I say, for a modern car, generally speaking, you don't need to do that. Let the mechanic do that when the car is being serviced. This one is, you'll hear people talk about coolant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, in modern cars, you probably don't want to touch this. That's an expansion bottle. So if the engine is hot and I open the top there, the fluid could come popping out on me. But if you can see here, there's a max indicator level there, and there's a minimum indicator level down there. And I don't know if the camera can actually see it, but there's enough coolant in there now at the moment.
Right.
If you check that visually, if it's dropping below the minimum level, let the engine cool. then you can open that and you can top it up. But I would suggest you've got a more serious
Let the
problem.
professionals
I would let it be. So if you've
Bring
got
it
a
into the
coolant
garage.
leak, bring it into the garage and let them have a look at
In
it.
terms of the winter, and just a funny story that I'm remembering from my childhood, my dad, in terms of de-ices and keeping the
Yeah.
engine, you know. My father would always put a blanket on the engine of the car and then get up the following morning and take it off. Except one morning he forgot to take it off. We were halfway to work and there's black smoke pluming from the car going.
dear, oh dear.
The blanket had melted onto the engine. Now, so to avoid Daddy Delaney's thing,
Avoid
what do we
Daddy
do in
Delaney's
terms of-
disasters.
Yeah.
Well, blankets and stuff, those are sort of tricks and things
Yeah,
from
yeah.
yesteryear, so, you really wouldn't do it. But one thing that will happen to you in these cold mornings, in under there is a car battery, right?
Yeah.
Every car has a battery. They don't last as long as the car. You'll get maybe 3 to 5 years out of the car's battery. And they will fail in winter because in winter there's more demand on the car's electrics, plus all of the fluids in the engine, they get more viscous in low temperature. So it takes more power
Plus
to
you're
turn
using
the
the
engine
heating
over.
system,
You're
or
using
you're
everything.
defrosting
Yeah.
the windows.
It's working hard.
All of
Defrosting
that.
the windows. Is that the
See,
right term?
Very good. Yeah,
See?
very good. He's a pro. So what that means in practical effect is, as your battery starts to fail, you'll get away with it in the summer.
Yeah, but
Cold
not
winter
winter.
morning,
Yeah,
and we get a frosty winter morning for Monday morning frosty in the AA. Cars length and breadth of the country, batteries will fail. So if you're, it'll be checked when the car is being serviced,
Yeah.
or if you have an AA man call out, he'll have connect something to it and you'll have a little look. But as it starts to fail, you might notice the car struggling to turn over.
Yeah.
Maybe the electric's dimming a little bit. Your battery is probably dying. So have it replaced rather than have it break down on you.
What about in terms of the windows with
windscreen.
de-ices and all that kind of,
Yeah.
that
Well,
kind of stuff?
here's a very slick piece of technology, right? They've yet to beat this as a way of clearing the windscreen. Okay? Now, what people tend to do, you wake up in the morning, the windscreen is frosty. The oldest trick in the book and the worst thing to do, the kettle.
Is it?
Hot water,
I
yeah.
did it this morning.
I
I did it
know,
this
I mean,
morning.
everybody
Did you?
does it. Everybody does it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the problem with doing that is it works instantly. So everybody goes, well, hey, great. But it can it can heat the windscreen very rapidly, and that can weaken the windscreen and eventually can crack it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
because what you're doing is you're clearing it too quickly. So the scraper works very well. Security permitting, if you turn the car on and just let the blowers do their job,
Yes, yeah,
it'll clear it in a few
But
minutes.
you mightn't be able to leave the car running
It's
outside.
not,
is the
yeah,
thing.
it's not, it mightn't be secure to do that. And the other thing is there are de-icer sprays that you can get that
Yeah.
actually work very well.
And some of them you can apply the night before as well,
Yeah,
can't you?
yeah, and they're
So
sort of,
good.
they prevent ice from forming. And again, some of those are quite effective. The other thing you want to do with your windscreen, this is actually quite that windscreen's in very good condition, but just a little check for stone chips and cracks. etc. Because again, winter's when it tends to happen. Because of the extremes in temperatures, the glass will shrink as it freezes and it'll expand again as the car heats it up. So again, if you've got a little hairline crack or something like that,
Get it
it will
sorted.
worsen
Now's
through
the
the
time
winter.
to fix
That's the
it.
kind of thing that's not going to fix itself. It's only going to
Well,
get
no,
worse.
but
isn't it?
in years gone by, they replaced the windscreen. Nowadays, it's a bit like a dental filling. They can fix them very well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it needn't be an expensive repair. But now's the time to check it. And then the last thing I'd say to people is just check the lights. Again, very, very easy to do. We used to do this with the kids. Put somebody in the driver's seat,
Yeah.
just check all the lights systematically and walk around,
do a
physically
visual check. Yeah,
physically
yeah.
check that everything's working. If there's one thing we get loads and loads of complaints about, it's fog lights.
Yes.
People
Yeah.
not using the fog
Yeah.
lights properly.
Yeah.
Drives everybody mad. Check your owner's manual because it's different from car to car to car. But the simple thing is you turn on the fog lights, there'll be a little orange indicator light
On the
on your
dash.
dashboard.
Yes.
That says the fog lights are on. You use the fog lights in thick
When
fog.
needed.
Yeah,
And
thick
now
fog
turn them off.
or falling snow.
Okay.
Or otherwise don't do it because the guy in the car behind you being dazzled
Will be
is-
blinded.
yeah.
Or
and
have Connor
contemplating.
Faulkner on speed dial for all of
Yeah,
that.
invaluable information.
Connor.
Shall we finish the service in this car while we go to a break?
Yeah, I think I'll just service everything over the break. No problem.
We'll take a quick break.
Thanks, Connor.
Fashion up next. See you in a few.